It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Tuesday, September 13th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this wonderful Tuesday? We've got current news from around the world, the practical word study, and also Providence in the media. All right, everyone, how are you doing today? It is already Tuesday, Monday's in the books, and we can officially go straight into the week. Yes, Monday was the hardest day, but we're into it now. And hope you guys are really praying, as this week's message is, prayer is work. So super thankful for all of you joining us here on the Morning Star Drive. So keep liking and commenting. I want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. So more than anything else, let us build the community for the English-speaking members around the world. And we want to make something here so that we can be way more transparent and we're able to kind of have a platform for all of us to speak to each other too. So keep it going, guys. We're getting way more comments, way more viewership too. And I hope that we can listen more and more of what is happening all around the world. So we have a question and answer Thursday coming up in 2 days, so get your questions ready for this week. Q&A is one of the most popular segments every week, so I enjoy it too. And I hope it's something that we can help each other when it comes to understanding, the difficult things that we go through each and every day. Today, I'm really, really excited, especially because every Tuesday we have Providence in the media. And we kind of look at what slanders and the media says about Providence and what are the things that we can do to understand it better. And how are we able to respond in a better way? Because I know a lot of times we don't hear much about it, but if we know more about what is being said and how we can counteract it or how we can rebut, right? This is something I do think that will be beneficial for every member, because the less that we know, the more doubt that can creep in, and Satan can use that ignorance against us, right? So we will get into a lot more deeper things when it comes to Providence in the media. So I hope that all of us will really be more and more ready for these segments, okay? So today I am going to talk about, before we go into what I'm talking about, let's go into the poll. A brand new poll just came out, okay? So here we have, the question is about slander. So if you were to see slander, how much do you think you would be affected? Okay, how much do you think? Okay, so there's 5 different levels. Like, first one is heavily affected, and I would start to doubt my faith. Second level would be affected by it, but not enough to make me doubt. And third one would be wouldn't affect me too much. Then fourth is not affected. I've seen this before. And of course, last one is not affected, motivates me to be stronger in faith, right? So I just posted this like less than an hour ago, and already we have like 9 people already coming on to go on this poll. And I think it's a good view for all of us here. And, I really, really want you guys to be honest, because this is going to help all of us when we know how much people are being affected and how much we really need to be educated or know the information that is out there. And I think it's very, very important for all of us that we have a place to discuss and ask questions more than anything else, right? So go ahead, write it down. Remember, it's anonymous. So don't worry if you put, I'm super affected and my faith is affected too. That's okay. That's okay, right? Because that's just an honest opinion. And we want to know what people are honestly feeling when they see these slanders. And, we could talk about it a little bit more today in Prov in the media. Are we more affected by it because we don't know enough, right? Are we affected by it because, we're not educated or we don't understand the whole situation? Or is it just because kind of we might have that sensitive heart that every time something like this happens that we kind of get affected by it? So there's a lot of different things that happen because of it. But I hope that all of us can be very, very transparent about ourselves, right? Remember, it is anonymous. And I hope that all of us here can really get ourselves to understand it at a much, much higher and better level. Okay, so especially with Sky, there's going to be a new video coming out this week. Hope you guys will really enjoy this too. I really had an amazing trip, and I hope that all of you guys here can really be able to benefit a lot more from this too. Also, I'm hoping that I'll be able to testify a bit about all the miracles that happen on my YouTube channel too, just to show how much God has been working through all these different, just the miracles that happen through the weather and the, just so many things happening. Either way. So let's get into some member music from around the world on this awesome Tuesday. We're going to start off with today's featured artist of the day. We're going to go Die Wings from Korea. An oldie but a goodie, one of their original songs that they came out first. This song is called More and More. After that, we have Rapture Collective from Australia with the song Till the End, their latest track to drop featuring Sky. And of course, the third song, AG from Japan. This song is Tears of God. This is the EDM remix. Hope you guys will enjoy this.
알지 못해 툭 치고 간 어떤 한마디에 내게 남아질 리가 시크하게 툭 털어 그뿐 It never affects me 그 어떤 것도 날 멈추진 못해 내 쉬는 숨이 내 움직임이 내 가진 걸 내 뿜어내 또 담대하게 또 풍부하게 인생의 파도에 부딪혀도 돼 내 사랑도 내 자유도 다 내가 선택해 of course 손 넘은 참견은 거절해 no more 괜찮아 할 수 있어 babe 언제나 시작은 미약해 갈수록 완전해진 me 우리가 바라볼 비전이야 더 긴장을 늦추지 마 좀 느린 건 괜찮아 앞을 봐 도전을 멈추지 마 Because you're gonna shine more and more You're gonna shine more and more Shine more and more So I'm moving on Cause I'm breathing 지난 날 걸어왔던 수많은 날들이 날 꿈꾸게 만들어줘 더 빛나게 만들어줘 사라지지 않을 자연이 되어줘 되게 도망가지 도망했다고 자책해 다시 그만 너도 그 마음 가져가 그만 하지만 거스트 나도 봐왜 너를 집착해 난 너로 기특해 끝은 여기가 아닐까 자꾸만 이러고 괜찮아 할 수 있어 babe 언제나 시작은 미약해 갈수록 완전해짐이 우리가 바라볼 비전이야 더 긴장을 늦추지 마좀 느린 건 괜찮아 앞을 봐 도전을 멈추지 마 Because you're gonna shine more and more Because you're gonna shine more and more 불어오는 바람 따라 유유히 흘러가 그러다 보면 어느새 끝은 나오겠지 끝은 하나의 전환일 뿐 새로운 시작을 기대해 You're gonna shine more and more Shine more and more
This the body of Christ resurrected 316 don't forget it We are the Rapture Collective Let's go Sometimes walking on the path of life can seem like you're walking on fire Can you tell me I'm lying? While walking on the path of death seems like a jolly good time Don't believe it cause the devil is a liar Trust me when I say you gotta trust in God Just hold on to the Lord, he'll help you stand up tall And if collapse and fall, don't ever let go He'll help you get through it Call on the Lord, receive strength and keep moving Faith is a journey, keep at it, don't worry about it Please remember it's a process, don't forget it Forget stressing, persevere by keep it in perspective In the name of the Lord, to say guidance to get stepping. Always pray, trust and follow instead of second guessing. In the middle of the road, it's hard to see the ending. So go until the end, that's the motto. Divine logos.
Whatever comes my way, no matter what they say, I'll go until the end. I'll go until the end. If it's word of truth, with my love for you, I'll go until the end. I'll go until the end.
A tumor sat in my seat, mentally beating me. It's limited seating. We need to coexist, be harmonious. I tried to draw my hydros, but I missed. I'm getting weary, things are getting dreary. Thoughts of tomorrow's missing, standing up, getting scary. Rolling up in the Lord's church, where's my perch? When will I be seated? As a tumor sliding past me. Walking down the street, dragging my feet. Troubles got me beat, strife like a knife. Troubles of life, it's a bumpy ride. Try to hide the pain, can't escape the rain. I reach my limitation, troubles and fate collide. Confide in God's word, confidence, find guidance. Hope in a new way, empty my thoughts to receive inspiration. Holy Spirit's visitation, find courage, no hesitation. Take action, practice, do it to the end, never giving up. If we fall, Lord picks us up, yeah, Lord picks us up.
Traveling down the street, my held up high, trying to see if God will reply. Left and right of me, all this pain and misery. Times are tough, making it hard to believe. So I sat down and prayed, tried to find some answers. When I started, my mind clouded smoke and mirrors. Talking to you now, Lord, show me your wisdom. Finally connected with him, then he revealed his kingdom. A golden city shining perfection over perfection. White shores, green country, angelic collection. How can I get there, Lord? Please pay me your location. He said there's a narrow path, one for resurrection. Lean on the one he sent, he's not your adversary. Trust in him, key faith is necessary. With time you'll grow in your love and make harmony. Once you're with God, there's no greater beneficiary. Just don't make the mistake of becoming stationary. Sad to see there's no Bible in your library. Rare to find the word forgiveness in your vocabulary. Write down these notes into your new spiritual diary.
Whatever comes my way, no matter what they say, I'll go until the end. I'll go until the end. If it's word of truth, with my love for you, I'll go until the end. I'll go until the end.
AG from Japan with Tears of God, the EDM remix. Before that, Rapture Collective from Australia with Till the End featuring Sky. And of course, feature artist of the day, that's Die Wings from Korea with More and More. So some of you might be wondering why my voice is a little bit hoarse. It's not from the soccer tournament. It's been over a week. Yesterday night, I went to karaoke with some members from Houston, and it was a blast. And it was just amazing just to be able to kind of relieve the stress, let it all come out while we're singing. So I had a ton of fun, and I think it's kind of became like a tradition. Like whenever I hang out with the Houston guys, we're like, when they came to LA, we went to karaoke. When I came here last time, went to karaoke. This time we went to karaoke. It seems like the two things we do all the time is either karaoke or paintball. So I had an amazing and awesome time too. So I hope it's something that you guys understand that my voice is a little bit hoarse and rough because we were screaming last night. Playing like old school songs from like the 80s and 90s and 2000s. So it was really, really fun. All right. So before we get in, let's get into the current news going on around the world. What is happening? And of course, as a responsibility of brides of this history, we need to be those who know what is happening and really be able to pray about them too. Because the Sun Seam says, there's three reasons why we need to know the world news. Is number one is to see the things we need to report and pray for. Also, number two is to see what God is doing. And last but not least, it is what are the things we can comfort God's heart in. Like there's some terrible things happening too. And we read them not to be like shocked by them, but more importantly, it's to comfort God's heart because this is his creation, his people too. All right, so let's start off with the Russia-Ukraine crisis. And it looks like Russians are outnumbered 8-1 in the counterattack. Ukrainian forces outnumbered Russians by 8-1 in last week's counterattack in the Kharkiv region, Russia's top occupation official there says. Vitaly Ganchev told Russian TV that Ukraine's army had taken villages in the north and broken through to the Russian border. Ukraine says it has regained control of over 3,000 square kilometers of territory in a potential breakthrough in the six-month war. The BBC cannot verify these figures. The Ukrainian army says it took back 20 villages in the past 24 hours alone in its continued counteroffensive in the northeast of the country. It also said its forces have taken control of around 500 square kilometers in the southern Kherson region of the country. UK defense officials say the Ukrainian army's successes will have significant implications for Russia's overall operational design. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov was, however, undeterred, saying operations in Ukraine would continue until all the tasks that were initially set had been fulfilled. President Putin is constantly being updated with the latest developments, he added. Russia said its forces were carrying out strikes in those areas that Ukraine had retaken recently, and this included targets in Izium and Kupiansk, which were taken by Ukraine on Saturday. Russia confirmed its forces' retreat from both towns, which it said would allow them to regroup, and Russia has been accused of targeting civilian infrastructure in revenge for setbacks on the battlefield. A wave of missile strikes on Sunday caused power cuts across the region. The blackouts reportedly affected millions of people in the Kharkiv and Donetsk regions, and Ihor Terekov, Kharkiv city mayor, called it a vile and cynical attempt at revenge for the Ukrainian army's recent successes. Ukraine's defense minister Oleksiy Reznikov said the priority now was to secure the territorial gains made in a week of rapid advances in the Kharkiv region. The Russian army appears to have abandoned large quantities of equipment and ammunition as it withdrew from areas it had held since the first weeks of the war. A Russian battle tank maker has switched to round-the-clock production after these setbacks, according to reports. And Russia's largest armored vehicle manufacturer have reportedly not been allowed to go on vacation due to the production necessity. And of course, Ukraine's rapid gains stun Russia. And it's basically, there's a report that Ukraine's rapid progress seems to have stunned Russia, and the Kremlin says its troops are regrouping, but pictures from some liberated areas in the Kharkiv region suggest a hasty departure by the invading forces, with military vehicles, ammunition, and equipment left behind. Now, if the gains are confirmed, and if they hold, it's the most significant change on the front line since Russian troops left the Kyiv region 5 months ago. The extraordinary advance would mark a humiliating setback for Russia and be a boost to Ukraine's position that it can push the Russians out while asking for more Western weapons. So President Zelensky of the Ukraine has talked about a possible breakthrough, suggesting that more advances could happen before winter, but the country still faces huge challenges. Around a fifth of its country remains under occupation, And in the south, Ukrainian troops have reportedly faced more resistance in their offensive as Russia has fortified its positions. Ukraine feels it has the momentum and is pushing forward, but questions remain about how far it can go. All right, so that's what's happening in the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Let's move over to we're going to go to Sweden. And elections are happening right now, and it looks like results could take days as vote is way too close to call. Sweden's election was too close to call on Sunday night, Prime Minister Magdalena Andersson said. Exit polls at first predicted victory for the incumbent left-wing coalition, but results later suggested the right-wing bloc could narrowly win. Crime and integration of communities were major issues in the campaign, and the far-right Sweden Democrats looks set to become the second largest party, and it could take until Wednesday for all votes to be counted. And soon after polls closed, an early exit poll by Sweden's public broadcaster suggested Ms. Andersson's coalition of four left-wing parties would narrowly win 49.8% to 49.2%. But the left celebrations were perhaps premature, as later partial results put the right-wing group ahead, with a projected 176 of 349 seats in parliament after 94% of electoral districts were counted. So as the race is so close, the final result may have to wait until all votes, including postal and advance votes, are counted over the next few days. Whatever the result, the far-right Sweden Democrats have made significant gains, appearing to become the country's second largest party behind the Social Democrats. However, its leader, Jimmy Åkesson, is unlikely to become prime minister even if the right-wing bloc wins the largest number of seats. Instead, moderate party leader Ulf Kristersson is likely to take that role, with the Sweden Democrats hoping to become part of his government. Now, born out of a neo-Nazi movement at the end of the 80s, the anti-immigration Sweden Democrats entered parliament with 5.7% of the vote in 2010, increasing it to 17.5% in 2018, and looks set to win more than 20% this time. Moderate party leader Ulf Kristersson orchestrated a major shift in Swedish politics in 2019 by starting talks with the Sweden Democrats, who had long been treated as pariahs by other political parties. Now, Magdalena Andersson's Social Democrats have governed Sweden since 2014 and dominated the country's political landscape since the 1930s. Voter turnout in this election was expected to be high, with more than 80% of the country's 7.8 million eligible voters expected to cast ballots. The election campaign has been dominated by rising gang shootings, immigration and integration issues, and soaring electricity prices. Now, while the violence was once contained to certain locations, it has spread to public spaces such as parks and shopping centers, sparking concern among ordinary Swedes in a country long known as safe and peaceful. And last but not least, let's move over to Japan. Japan could lift cap on foreign tourists to lift economy. Japanese officials may further relax border controls for foreign travelers as a way to boost its economy, local reporters say. Deputy Chief Cabinet Secretary Seiji Kihara told local TV that a weak yen was most effective in attracting inbound tourism. The yen slid to its lowest point against the US dollar in 24 years last week, dropping as much as 1.7%. He said a cap on daily entries could be lifted in the not-so-distant future. Japan has barred most foreign visitors for the last 2 years amid measures to slow the spread of COVID. And last year, overseas visitors were even banned from the delayed 2020 Tokyo Olympics. However, earlier this month, the number of foreign tourists allowed to enter the country was raised to 50,000 per day from 20,000, and tourists were no longer required to travel with a guide. Other reports suggest the government may scrap the daily cap on arrivals altogether. The US dollar has gained strength against other currencies as investors keep a watchful eye on the Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes. So that's good news for people who want to visit Japan. And so that's the top 3 news around the world. Which means let's get into some sporting news, okay? So I was going to report on this yesterday. Tennis U.S. Open, teenage superstar Carlos Alcaraz makes history with his first U.S. Open title, and it's only the beginning. Carlos Alcaraz Lerma always told his grandson that to win tennis matches and to become the best player in the world, it would take head, heart, and courage. And in the course of the U.S. Open's men's singles finals on Sunday, Carlos Alcaraz had to draw on those 3 to get past the valiant Casper Ruud, 6-4, 2-6, 7-6, 6-3. And with this victory, Alcaraz, only 19 years old, will become the first teenager to reach world number 1 since the ATP rankings began in 1973. So congratulations to Alcaraz. In second news, we have NFL. The week 1 has just started. bunch of games that just happened. Big upset. The Chicago Bears defeat the San Francisco 49ers 19-10. This is the first start for Trey Lance. Had 164 yards and 1 interception. Pittsburgh Steelers defeat the Bengals. Bengals went to the Super Bowl last year, 23-20 in overtime, but Joey Burrow's 338 yards passing with 2 TDs, and of course his favorite target, Jamar Chase, 129 yards with 1 TD. Dolphins, with their brand new head coach, McDaniels, defeat the New England Patriots 20-7. Tyreek Hill, new wide receiver that just came in, 94 yards receiving. Tua Tagovailoa, 270 yards with one TD. Baltimore Ravens defeat the New York Jets 24-9. Lamar Jackson, after not signing an extension, 3 TDs with 1 interception. Washington Commanders, Carson Wentz, first victory with the Washington Commanders, 28-22 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Cleveland Browns defeat the Carolina Panthers 26-24. Nick Chubb 141 yards rushing. New York Giants defeat the Titans 21-20. Saquon Barkley 164 yards on the ground with 1 TD. Vikings defeat the Packers, another big upset here, 23-7, and Justin Jefferson 184 yards receiving with 2 TDs. Biggest game here was the Chiefs versus the Cardinals. That's Mahomes versus Kyler Murray. And the Chiefs come on top 44-21, and Patrick Mahomes 360 yards with 5 TDs. So incredible what he did. LA Chargers defeat the Las Vegas Raiders 24-19, and new wide receiver on the Raiders, Devontae Adams, 141 yards receiving with 1 TD. And of course, the timeless Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeat the Dallas Cowboys 19-3. Brady with 212 yards passing and 1 TD. And Leonard Fournette, 127 yards on the ground. Last but not least, again to the Major League Baseball. And of course, we're kind of tracking these 2 players and their home runs. Albert Pujols continues an absolutely legendary run, hits his 697th home run as St. Louis Cardinals rally. Albert Pujols hits his 697th home run, moving past A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, into 4th place on the career list, and doing it in dramatic fashion with a 9th inning drive that rallied the St. Louis Cardinals over the Pittsburgh Pirates 4-3 on Sunday. The NL Central leading Cardinals trailed 2-1 when Pujols connected for a 2-run drive. Pujols had tied Rodriguez with a home run Saturday night. Pujols trails Barry Bonds with 762, Hank Aaron 755, and Babe Ruth 714 on the all-time homer chart. Aaron Judge, we're tracking his chase for 60-plus home runs, and baseball history could be on the horizon as Aaron Judge approaches the elite mark of 60 home runs. He has 55 already. The New York Yankees outfielder came one step closer with his 55th home run on Wednesday versus the Minnesota Twins. The Yankees outfielder has had an outstanding season at the plate, batting .302 and logging 118 ribbies. He is one of the reasons New York is among MLB's elite entering the stretch run. Judge is also on the verge of making Yankees history, needing only 7 more dingers to break Roger Maris' 1961 record of 61 home runs in a season, a mark that has stood for over 6 decades, and is also the American League single-season record for home runs. So that's right, 55 home runs, 25 games left. Also, Los Angeles Dodgers, the LA Dodgers, first team to clinch a playoff spot. It's become routine. I think they've done it for the last 10 seasons. Right, and they're the first team to clinch a postseason spot this year, 11-2 victory over the San Diego Padres. The Dodgers didn't celebrate on the field beyond their usual post-victory handshake line, but they are the first to reach the postseason, so congrats to them. All right, so there it is, guys. That is the top 3 news in sports and world news. So what does that mean? It means it's the golden time. And yes, it is the golden time, a time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity. Hope you guys are really enjoying and looking forward to giving glory to God and the Holy Spirit. So, what are we going to praise today? We're going to start off with Wake Up and Rise, You Youthful One, and then Pray at All Times, especially for this week's message, and then we'll end things off with Thanksgiving of Love. So, as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
at times we feel anxiety. Everyone goes through hardships. Everyone has worries. They rise and fall just like crashing waves. God has said, this is the solution. You must all pray. Pray without ending. If you want to talk, come and talk to me. That's what God said. Pray at all times. We must pray. Pray at all times. God has said we should tell him what's in our hearts. How tremendous, that's so great. You and I both, we should say exactly what we must once the time is gone. Just like the sun sets over western hills, pitch darkness will come upon you quickly. Therefore, let's pray. Pray at all times. We must pray. Pray at all times. Pray at all times. We must pray. Pray at all times. We must all pray. We must all Give thanks with joy. Pray and converse without end. In the past, Almighty God, Holy Spirit, omniscient, omnipotent, in their perfect love, they were by our side, always helping. In their grace they saved us from a life of death, and they helped us countless times. They saved our lives, they poured out their love. So we give glory and thanks.
And that was the golden time, a time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity. Hope you guys enjoyed that time and really got your hearts really involved and prepared for today's word study. That song was Thanksgiving of Love. Before that, Pray at All Times. And of course, Wake Up and Rise, You Youthful Ones. All right, so today is Tuesday, and we're going to get into today's practical word study. What are the things that we can do to put this week's words into practice? And of course, it's all about prayer. And I think there's a couple things that we can really do to make it more practical in our everyday life, okay? And the first one to talk about is a very, very important one, and it's not just about prayer, actually. To put this into practical use, one of the great things that Sansim talked about was, he said, over the last 60 years, he's prayed like 70,000 hours altogether, which is around 3 hours a day for 60 years, okay? So that's quite incredible, okay? So that's just prayer itself. And the one thing that when I was listening to the message that the leader here in Houston brought up was what Suzy talked about in the past. He says that every day we should give the tithe of time to God, the tithe of time. Okay, so when you look at the tithe is 10%. Look at 10% of the day as the time you give to God. And Suzy actually said this 10% is like 100%. So if you do this, it's like 100% giving your time to God. Okay, so 10% of a day is like 2 hours and 24 minutes. Okay, 2 hours and 24 minutes. So this is a time that we should be giving to God each and every day. This includes pre-dawn. This includes your other times of prayer. This includes these official things, whether it's reading the Bible, going to evangelize. These are times you give to God, okay? And of course, I'm not saying that go out and make sure you time it 2 hours, 24 minutes, and then make sure you stop at 10%. But I think it's a good thing that we have to kind of calculate in our hearts, are we giving our tithe of time to God each and every day? Now, when it comes to, let's just say, pre-dawn time, people on average will pray from like 20 to 40 minutes, right? We'll just say 30 minutes, and as an average, it'll be 30 minutes of prayer time, plus you'll have another probably 20 minutes of your pre-dawn service, right? Including praise should be like another 20 minutes or maybe 25 minutes, right? So let's say right there, you have about an hour that you've used, and to complete your tithing of time, you still have like another hour and a half left, right? So how are you going to use these 90 minutes? And of course, especially this week, I think a very, very important one we have is the set times of prayer. Like we obviously have the time at pre-dawn to pray. We obviously have the time before we go to bed to pray. And then we have parts during the day, whether it's evangelism, whether it's lecturing, whether it's whether it's taking care of people. There's a lot of different things that we can do, but I really hope that we'll be able to plan and schedule our time really well. Like you can't plan and schedule management. Like you can't say, I'm going to manage you for 5 minutes. Like it just doesn't work. It really depends on the person's situation, circumstance, right? So it's kind of interesting. Like those are things that you can't really plan. However, there are things you can plan. For instance, reading the Bible. You can say, I'm going to read the Bible for 15 minutes a day. Very plannable. Right? So that'll take off 15 minutes here. You have maybe 1 or 2 extra prayer times during the day, and it could be 20 minutes each, which is another 40 minutes, plus that 15, which would make it 55, almost another hour right there, right? And then you're still going to have like another 30 minutes left. What are you going to do with this time? And this is the thing for practical usage for this week's message is making sure you have that time set aside for God. Right? And I think it's much different than just doing things on whim. Oh, I just got inspired to do, because you're not always inspired all the time. Sometimes you're tired. Sometimes you don't want to do anything. But to make it much more practical, I really believe that we have to be those that kind of set that time and say, okay, this is the thing I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do, right? And you put that time aside from pre-dawn, your 1 or 2 extra times during the day, plus your time you pray at night, plus the time you read the Bible, plus the time there's all these things that you can do and set time aside for, right? And when it comes to your tithing of the day, 2 hours and 24 minutes, that's just kind of like a baseline. You don't have to stick to that. You can go to, sometimes people do 3 hours. Some people do 4 hours. Sometimes it depends on your mission. Like for me, when it comes to in the past when I was lecturing, like each lecture is like over an hour. And because of that, and not just the hour of lecturing, but the time after you eat together or the time you have a coffee together or talking, it's usually like 2 to 3 hours right there for like when I lecture 2 to 3 times, that's like 5 hours of lecturing, right? 5 hours of time that I'll spend for God right there. Right? So I hope it's something that that's the first thing that I would do that would be very practical in the way that we could put this week's word into action. Are you giving your tithe of time, which includes prayer and includes all the other spiritual things that we do? So that's something I do say that you should schedule into your daily schedule, right? When you pray, when you're going to do this or that, when you read the Bible. And if you have a baseline there all the time, then it becomes something where you are always giving your tithe, right? And then everything else above that is giving more of your time, right? So I hope that's something that we can put into action for this week, scheduling your time of what you want to do for your life. Okay. Now, if there was a second thing that I would really put into is that message of what is the most important thing when it comes to praying? It's being sincere and genuine. Okay. Now, one of the things that I know that when it comes to myself, when I'm not prepared in prayer, it's hard to be sincere and genuine when it's like nothing's really going on. But when are you really sincere and genuine? When you really need something, you're like, oh, oh God, please, please, please. And you're really sincere and genuine of the things that you really want or the difficulties you're going through. That's super easy, right? But you're not always going through that. You're not always going through difficult or things that you really, really want. Sometimes, you're just going through a regular day of life. And that's one of the parts that's really hard is when comfort comes in, the comfort becomes something that makes you, the comfort makes you lazy a bit, right? And this is why one of the things that I do suggest for practical, putting prayer into making it practical and really, really having that earnestness and that sincerity is the preparation of prayer. I think that's really important, right? If you have preparation in your prayer, then you know exactly what you're going to talk about. You're not going to be fumbling around like, oh, what should I pray for? What should I pray for here? But you know exactly what it is, right? And when you prepare for it, you can be, you'll be much more involved in the prayer and much more ready to pray the things that like more deeply because you are invested. You've put that time in and like, oh, I should really pray about this. Oh, I can't forget to pray for this person and their family, pray for this person's finances and pray. Like you're going to become much more sincere and much more earnest too. And I do think that's a very, very important thing that all of us should really think about also, right? Is the preparation of prayer. Could you hear Oliver crying in the background? Yeah. I'm still, this is my last podcast today. And actually I'll be heading to the airport in about 20 minutes. So it will be, I can't do a super long podcast today, but it'll be substantial. But so that second thing is earnestness and sincerity. You need to prepare in order for you to be like that, because a lot of times we lose focus because we don't know what we don't know what we're praying for. Right? We can't be sincere because we're not really deeply thinking about what we're trying to pray for too. So that is something that I do think will be a second thing that is very, very important when it comes to us preparing ourselves in becoming sincere and earnest in our prayers, right? So I think the only last thing that I could do in practicality is one of the things that I like about the wrap-up part of the message is remember the difficult times you went through when you pleaded with God and the hardships went away or you got something that was impossible, right? And my testimony, I would write them down just to remind you that God has been the one that solved these problems, right? I'll give you an example is I'm working in crypto and there's one thing that's really, really something I really want. It's very expensive, but it's something I really wanted to get that can help me out, especially in the future when it comes to income. And I'm in this community with like 20,000 people inside of it. And there's only 500 of these crypto, they're called like validator nodes. There's only 500 of them. And the time to buy it was right after the soccer tournament. And right after the soccer tournament, I was out in the parking lot with a hotspot. So it's not even the fast internet connected to my laptop trying to buy this thing. So the tournament ended around 6:40 p.m. And this thing, the time to buy was 7:15 p.m. Okay, so I have like 35 minutes. But on top of it, we have a closing ceremony. The closing ceremony ends at 7:12 p.m. So I had 3 minutes. I ran to the parking lot, got all these things done. 7:15, I'm like clicking and clicking, nothing's happening. And no, clicking and clicking, nothing happens. And then finally, I think like an hour later, it starts to work. And what happens is it says that, oh, I got one. I was like so happy. But then none of my money left my wallet. I was like, wait a second, how come it's not there? And, there's a lot of people complaining, what's going on? And I was like, God, how am I supposed to, this is something I really, really want. God, how am I supposed to get this, right? And what happened was, remember that 7:15? Nothing was sold. Like that big one that I wanted to get didn't happen until 10 p.m., which is almost 3 hours later. And the crazy part was when you first bought it and it says you got the node, it wasn't right. And a lot of people left thinking they got it because, oh, it looks like you got a node, you bought a node. But then later in the Discord room, it's like saying, oh, it's not working right now, so you didn't actually get it. So a ton of people left. And I was like, whoa. And people were complaining and complaining. A lot of people had to go back to sleep because it was like 2, 3 a.m. Some people were thinking that it was already done. Some people think that it's going to be postponed to another day. And I waited until the very end, even took this laptop with me into the restaurant after the tournament. And exactly at 10 p.m., I was able to get one. Not because I was the fastest, is because it was that week's message of do things until the end. Right? So I waited those 3 hours constantly clicking and clicking and clicking. And where a lot of people left and they thought it was done and over, they're upset and they didn't want to deal with this because it was like 4 a.m. People had to go to work or whatever it was. I stayed there until the end and I got it. And I got the thing and it was kind of an impossibility. I really thought it wouldn't happen, but God really saved me because I did it until the end. So when I look at this, I look back at the things that are super impossible, like thousands and thousands, tens of thousands looking for this same thing and only 500 available. And I got one, not because I was, lucky and clicking faster, is I waited the entire 3 hours until the end, until it was ready to be sold. And that's why I was like super happy. Like the first one was sold in 4.3 seconds, like all sold out. And the second one was sold like within less than a minute, and I was able to get it too. So I was super thankful, but I do think that we have to testify, talk about those things God has done for us. And then on top of it, we have to be those that as we're pleading for help, we'll look back and say, how many times did they save us and do something for us that it was impossible to do, right? It's always we forget in times of comfort. So one of the things I would do for the practical word study is definitely write things down. Look back, think back at all the times that God has helped you and you were able to make it through, right? Don't make excuses. Don't reduce your time of prayers or anything like that, because this is when problems arise more. So I hope that all of us too can write down or even talk to your friends, think back at the past of all the times God really, really helped us. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is a practical word study for today. Hope you guys really enjoyed this word study. Go ahead, make sure you put a comment below if there's something that really inspired you or that made it more practical or something that you want to give advice to other people also. I think that would be really helpful too. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is the word study for today. Hope you guys really enjoyed that, and I hope that you guys will have an amazing and awesome week together with the Lord, which leads us into the song of choice on this Japanese Tuesday. Found this great song from an animation. I'm not sure which one it is, but you guys can comment below what animation this song comes from. This song is from a group called AAA, and the song is Sayonara no Mae ni, which means before the goodbye.
つがあるように二
弱も胸も棘も思い出がこの目からこぼれそうちょっと遅すぎたから素直になれないこの口だから上手に言葉がつなげないから好きだよだけ伝えたい同じ映画を何度も見るみたいに共に過ごした今日までの時を思う君のセリフや流した涙の意味を受け止めてたら違う景色たどれたから終わりが怖いなら始めなければいいと出会う前の僕らなら信じてたね疑いもせずに君にさよなら告げるまででいい誰よりそばにいてほしいそんな二人の結末を知っても出会えてよかったと思い合えるまで君にさよなら告げるため僕らあんなに愛し合ったのかなこれが二人の結末としても好きだよって君に伝えたい君にさよなら告げるまででいい誰よりそばにいてほしいそんな二人の結末を知っても出会えてよかったと思い合えるまで好きだよ今さらだけど言わせてさよならの前に
And there it is. That is on this Japanese Tuesday, AAA with Sayonara no Mae ni. So that leads us into our final section for today. And of course, every Tuesdays, we're going to go over Prov in the media. This is what slanderers and the media is saying about us. And I hope it's something that will be very, very helpful for you guys, especially in the future. As we grow bigger in this history, even in Western countries, eventually it's going to reach us. Like, how many times have you guys had that experience where you're lecturing someone, newcomers doing so well, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they just stop. No more contact and everything else, right? And we look at this and we're like, wait, what is going on? And later you find out, oh, there is slander. Oh, they saw the slander, or they were affected by something that they saw in the media. Right? And this is not something new. Like, if you've been in Providence for at least, I would say at least 2 years, everyone's going to know that slander's out there. Right? It's a normal thing. Like, it's not something that we're like, oh my gosh, there's actually slander out there. And the answer is no, it's normal. And even for us in this history, being the true history of God, when Satan attacks, we're going to see it happen just like it happened with all the prophets and just like it happened in the time of Jesus, right? If it's going to happen at the time of Jesus where, the Messiah is being persecuted, then why would we expect any different now? If we were harmless, then Satan wouldn't even obstruct or do anything against us. But what we know is that because we're in the true history, yeah, it's inevitable that there's going to be persecution. Now, here's the thing. Because I know that I do have to head off to the airport today, probably within the next 15 minutes, something I do think that's very, very important for all of us to understand is that, we are here in this history, and we have to understand that, especially in the Western countries, the thing that really bothers people more than anything else is not so much that we, like, oh my gosh, this is what the media says. That's not the thing that bothers people. The thing that bothers people is transparency, is like, why are you hiding this? Why didn't you tell us you were this group? Or why are you trying to do things against us? You know what I mean? So we have to think about this very, very carefully, which means if this is the stuff that's going on, all right? And these, in the Western countries, transparency is a big thing where, they don't like it when we're hiding or doing things. It feels like we're trying to hide something and then kind of jump on them later. Like, oh, this is who we are. Or they find out from somewhere else. People are more hurt and shocked from that why didn't you tell me? Look, we're so close. We were trusted. Why didn't you say anything? Right? And this is one of the reasons why transparency is such a big thing, especially for this channel. Because we want to make sure that everyone understands, especially in the Western countries, that is the bigger thing to people. Like, there was trust and you couldn't say this to me. Because it's like in a relationship, why are people so upset? In a relationship, the reason why people are so upset is we're married and you couldn't even tell me this. It's not the fact that it's a bad thing that happened. It's the fact that you couldn't tell me and I'm your wife. The fact you couldn't tell me and we're best friends. The fact you couldn't tell me and we're family, right? That's the thing that really shocks people more than anything else, is it feels like we're hiding something, we're not transparent, and we're ashamed of something. And, why didn't you just tell me from the beginning? Like, I'm even dealing, I'm actually talking to some members, even in America, that were telling me, like, yeah, they heard about some rumors and now they're really upset because, why didn't they tell us? And that's something to kind of give you a heads up when it comes to Western countries, why transparency is such a big thing, right? It shouldn't be something that creeps up on us and you're like, wait, I thought we're friends. Like, I thought what's going on? And that's something I do think that's a very, very big thing when it comes to us dealing with these situations is, I know in our hearts and our minds, we're like, oh, they're going to be affected by it and we don't want them to be hurt by it. And there's been so many successful cases when, when you tell them later, they're fine, right? Well, it's not so many successful cases. It's not. We just hear about the successful ones and then we think, oh, it actually works that way. When in reality, we all know that there were many people that didn't finish because, they heard about the slander and they don't care about it anymore. They're like, no, we don't want to be part of this group, right? In our heads, we think to ourselves like, oh, but what about those people where it was successful? And the answer is, how many were more successful, right? A lot of times, because we're so small, when people realize and we don't say anything about it, we're just lucky they never heard about it, right? But it's really, really interesting that we're not taking into account the statistics. And I think that's a big thing that churches should do when it comes to ministry, is take the statistics. Why didn't they realize? Well, some people, they couldn't handle the lifestyle. Some people listened to slander. Some people were having, couldn't, they just were spiritually dull, I guess. Like, they couldn't realize it until the end, or there's just a lot of different reasons for it. But when we start to think about it, sometimes it's kind of like what I said before, is when we have a bias, we kind of look to one thing and think that's the reason for this to happen. And we have to understand is we got to be in that position where we are very clear of who we are, right? Because this is one of the things that even Korea and America talk about, and they talk about this in the media, is we go through another means. What does that mean? It's like, oh, hey, we're here to do a modeling thing. But in the end, it's about evangelism, but we don't say anything about it, right? Oh, we're here to do an arts thing, or we're here for this type of event, right? And this is something that's very, very, it's something where in the Western countries, if you're not upfront about it, then people think there's something wrong, right? And even if you are such good people and nothing's wrong, and when they hear that you're hiding something, then people are going to think, oh, okay, then there must be something wrong. There's got to be, even if there's no sign of it in the relationships, there's got to be something wrong. And trust becomes a huge thing. And I think that one of the biggest mentalities we need to have, and we have to overcome in our minds is, and I can't go too deep into it today because I am going to the airport. But one of the things we have to get into our minds is overcoming that, oh no, if they hear, they're gonna falter and they're not gonna come anyways. You know what, one thing very interesting is, one thing happened in Korea where there was someone from the former faith I was teaching, they were on fire. And they made it all the way to the very end. And then at the very end, we went into times, half a times. And then it came to who Sunsim was. And then after that, never talked to us. And I was like, what is going on? And I was like, they were doing so well. And then I wrote a letter to Sunsim. I was like, Sunsim, I don't get it, right? And Sunsim said, people don't change. In the sense of, people don't change as in, people think that, oh, let them listen to the word, right? Let them listen to the word and then they'll change from it. And Sunsim said, no, people don't change like that. Whether you tell them in the beginning or the end, they're going to have the same reaction. They're going to have the same reaction, which means that even though there are some people we never told and then eventually they came to believe, they would have been like that from the beginning too, even though they might say differently in their minds. Where when you are like, when it says teach them from the beginning, it doesn't mean obviously like at the very, very beginning when you first meet them. It's when they do Bible study, you teach them, and somewhere near the beginning, you should be saying, talking about Sunsim and stuff like this too. And Sunsim was like, yeah, because whether you tell them in the beginning or the end, people don't change, so their reaction's going to be the same. And if the reaction's going to be the same to the word, then what does that mean? Well, it doesn't really matter if you tell them within the first beginning stages or the end, because the reaction will be the same, right? And one of the things is, when we teach them the word and we teach them about this word and this history and they taste a bit of it, and then we teach them about Sunsim, that's kind of one of the separators, like, oh, I can't do this kind of thing. And then you can't do it, right? People can say that, oh, I wouldn't have studied if I heard this from the very, very beginning. And the answer is, of course. If someone says to you at the very, 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 very beginning that, hey guys, we're this church, and people say this, read all this about us, because they don't have any trust, they don't know us, right? Yeah, we'll say we're from church. Yeah, we'll say we're a Christian group, which is true. And somewhere near the beginning, people will talk about it, and that becomes like a testing point. Remember, it's hard enough just getting into this history. But one of the things we have to overcome is our own minds, right? Like, I would say that's even the same thing when it comes to transparency. Because when you think about transparency, think about this. We think in our heads, don't tell them because they're going to struggle from it. And that's only in our own minds. But then a lot of times, like, people will be thankful for it, or people will discuss it and they'll get to understand it much better, right? And we have to understand is, it's always, a lot of it, most of it is in our hearts and our minds. And we're basing it off statistics that are not even real statistics. We're basing it off just our personal experience. Like, oh, but remember the last time that person struggled. But imagine if you had like statistics from an entire country, like all of America, and it says, oh, it's going to be about 25% of them are going to struggle. It's like, oh, only 25%? Oh, that means 75% are going to be okay with them learning from the very beginning. Right? If you don't have real statistics, but you only base it on your feeling, haven't you ever seen this, which is like one of the worst ways to argue is when someone says to you, well, to all the people I've talked to, they totally struggle. But what if they've only talked to 3 people? Like, is that really a representation? And the answer is no way. It's not a representation. Just because 3 people didn't struggle. Well, all the people I've talked to, well, what if it's only 1? What if they're not a lecturer? What if they haven't talked to many newcomers, right? And this is why I do believe one of the biggest things that's going to help us is like truth, statistics and truth. That really helps us. And one of the things I really urge the countries to do is to really get into keeping statistics. because that's truth. Statistics are truth. It is, right? If you base it only on feeling, then that person's feelings could be wrong, right? But when you base it on statistics or like, hey, guess what, guys? 1 in 100 actually pass. That's real, right? Oh, hey, guys, when people hear about slander, it's about, let's just pretend it's 80% don't follow. Then you know it's a normal thing that someone listens to slander and they don't come. Like, there's a huge difference. If 9 out of 10 is like this, you're going to get an idea. It's like, oh, this is pretty normal that this person is like this, or that these people react in this way. But if we don't have statistics, what happens is we get shocked. How did this happen? Why is it like this? And, I'm going to talk a lot more deeply about providence in the media starting from next week, because I'll be back in my hometown. I'm not going to be restricted by time. But I hope it's something that you guys will really think about even more, and we'll really be able to get ourselves to understand, oh, this is what's going on. Oh, this is what's happening. Okay? And I think the biggest thing that I want to urge people to do, of course, to overcoming your own minds, one of the hardest things is you only have your own experiences or the things you've heard. And I'm urging people in ministry, you got to keep your stats. Like, I would keep the stats, how many people were talked to and how many people actually started studying. And of the people that started studying, how many people actually finished to the end. And of those who finished to the end, how many people pass, right? There's one statistic I think is very important. Another statistic that I think is super important is how many people are affected, what's people's reactions to slander while they're studying. What's people's reactions to slander after they pass within the first 3 years. Like, these are big, important statistics that are really going to help evangelists so that they can see that they don't have a problem, that it's a normal thing that's happening, right? Providence in the media things are going to come out. And if we're unprepared, this is where we start to shake and struggle, right? It's kind of like the poll I'm bringing up. The poll I'm bringing up is a lot of times is if you struggle a lot from it, why are you struggling? Is it because we don't know enough, right? And that's why I'm taking this poll to see how many people are actually struggling from it, how much people need to understand it and know it even better, right? So I hope it's something that all of us can really get our hearts and our minds to think about. And I hope it's something that we can really understand at a much higher and deeper level. And, when it comes to providence in the media, one of the biggest problems is not so much the media, but it's our reaction to it. And in order for us to understand it much better, we need to be more transparent and learn about it better. Even the things that are happening in different countries, I think it's perfectly healthy to talk about, especially when it's public. If it's public information, I don't understand why people can't talk about it. If it's public information, anyone can find it on the internet, right? But if it's healthy, then we can all talk about it together, discuss about it, and we'll be able to do things at a much more deeper and higher level, discussing about it. And once we discuss about it, people, when these things pop up, it's so easy for us to say, oh yeah, I've heard it before. Oh yeah, I've heard it already. Oh, I discussed about it too. Yeah, I heard about it, and I have an issue with this, and this with this article, or this, and this with this interview. Yeah, it's so much easier. Right? So this is kind of a glimpse of the things I am going to talk about in the future. But the one thing I am urging more than anything else is get the statistics in there for Providence. I really know that is something that will benefit a ton of people. Okay? So there it is, guys. That is today's episode for Providence in the Media. I will go a little bit deeper next time because I do have a time constraint. I do have to head out to the airport right now. So I hope you guys had a good time. Put your comments below. Would love to hear your comments on today's section of Providence in the Media. All right. Would love to hear what your thoughts are too. All right. So there it is, guys. That is the end of today's Tuesday podcast. Hope you guys had an amazing and awesome day. So we will see you tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and feel your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive, I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when